You'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. John C. Maxwell. The monkey, the human, and the computer. We are all routine machines. Your brain is one of the most efficient machines known to man, capable of running every single function of the human body for 100 years or more without so much as a day off. It works while you sleep. It's working right now. It can heal bones, grow hair, fight infections, and win you points at your local pub quiz. And a great deal of it runs on routine. You don't have to consciously remember to breathe, do you? Nobody thinks, it's been a while since I blinked, I better have a good blink now. Thankfully, tasks like reminding the heart to pump blood all around the body are not manual ones that we humans have to worry about 60 to 100 times per minute. The human brain is a complex machine, and one that has evolved over a couple of 100,000 years. Granted, we are no longer living in caves, bashing each other over the head with clubs and grunting at each other, but nor are we too dissimilar from our cavemen and cavewomen ancestors when it comes to certain parts of the brain anatomy. Let's do some pretty basic brain surgery, shall we? In his 2012 book, The Chimp Paradox, Professor Steve Peters, a psychiatrist who works with elite athletes, including most famously the British cycling team, explains in plain English that even I could understand how the human brain works. There are three psychological parts of the brain, known as the frontal lobe, the limbic system, and the parietal. How these three parts team up and work together, or in many cases don't, determines your thoughts, emotions, and feelings. The human. The frontal lobe is responsible for your logical and rational thinking. Every time you solve a crossword, start pondering difficult decisions, or try to make a judgment call based on facts, you are using the frontal lobe. This part of the brain wants to help others, feel fulfilled, and be happy and content. It acts according to the programming of what you believe to be right or wrong and what's important to you. This is the human part of the brain. The monkey. The limbic system is the emotional part of the brain. It works completely separately from the human and offers emotion-based responses to situations. It has one primary role: to keep you alive. It will alert you to any danger that it perceives in the area. Our ancestors found this very useful when they came face to face with a saber-toothed tiger. The fight or flight response generated by the limbic system literally saved their lives. This part of the brain works 4 times quicker than the human, which is why you may find yourself immediately reacting emotionally to situations and later regretting your actions. When you experience feelings of fear, anger, paranoia, or despair, it'll be the limbic system that's generating those feelings. Seeing threats everywhere, making knee-jerk emotional decisions, and shouting and screaming at you to enter fight or flight mode, that'll be the monkey part of the brain. The computer. The final area that we'll look at is the computer. This is a storage area spread throughout the entire brain and is full of the thoughts, behaviours and patterns that have been programmed into it over the years. Both the human and the monkey have access to it, and both are able to program the computer. The computer's job is to provide an automatic response for any given request. The computer can operate much faster than either the human or the monkey. It can react 5 times faster than the monkey and up to 20 times the speed of the human. When the monkey touches fire for the first time, he programs the computer to remember in future that fire is hot and fire is dangerous. Next time you see fire, the computer automatically alerts you not to get too close without the monkey needing to get involved. When you clean your teeth, you don't need to consciously think about how to do it. The human programmed the computer with the instructions, the routine, decades ago. And every time you pick up your toothbrush, the computer runs that program. The human and the monkey can both remain fast asleep, tucked up in their beds. As you go through your daily life and start interacting with the world at large, the 3 parts of your brain all receive and interpret the information all around you. First, the computer will check its files to see if there's a program already available to rerun. If there is, the human and the monkey don't get involved. The computer runs the program and you act on autopilot. If the computer doesn't find an existing program, then it shuts down and hands control over how to react to the human and the monkey. The human will evaluate the facts and figures. It will consider what it knows to be true, play through likely outcomes, and make a balanced decision that will give the optimum result. The monkey will use its feelings, emotions, and first impressions to avoid you getting killed. If you listen to the monkey, you can end up making knee-jerk reactions, incorrect assumptions, and freezing due to paralyzing fear. The monkey doesn't need to work on logic or reason, meaning it can work 4 times faster than the human, so the monkey will often give you the answer first. The human will also give you an answer, but this will take longer and will be more considered. The human wants to know all the facts and all the possible outcomes. He or she wants to check all the data held in the computer for the relevant cases like this in order to make a considered decision based on fact. If you listen to the monkey and act on the monkey's advice, the monkey will program the computer. If you listen to the human and act on the human's advice, the human gets to program the computer. During the course of this book, we're going to ask the monkey to sit quietly in the corner while the human and I have a conversation. We're going to ask the human to add a couple of new programs to the computer and maybe tweak a little bit of code on some of the existing programs. Now, the monkey isn't going to like this and is probably going to squawk and shriek. The monkey is going to feel threatened by somebody opening up their computer programs and changing their code. Given infinite time, 1,000 monkeys with 1,000 typewriters may eventually write the entire works of Shakespeare, but that's not a good reason to leave your monkey in charge of your computer. It's time to let the human have a go. I'm not the special one. This is the part of the book where you get to learn a little bit about me, where I get to big myself up and tell you why you should listen to me. This is where I tell you why I'm the expert in my field and how your life will be so much better if you just listen to what I've got to say over the next few hundred pages. But here's the problem. I'm nothing special. I'm just a normal bloke from Plymouth who's done quite well in business. I don't have magic genes, and I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. My dad was an electrician, and my mum worked in a sewing factory. I'm not particularly academic. I left school at 16 and pursued a career as a civil servant, a job I ultimately grew to hate. I haven't always made good decisions. I used to be 5 stone overweight, and I used to smoke and drink too much. I nearly bankrupted myself in 2006. I've missed hundreds of golden opportunities that each could have made me a millionaire many times over, and I've gone into partnerships and business plans that have fallen flat on their face time and time again. I used to think the answer to my prayers was simply working harder, that if I somehow put in more work, pulled another all-nighter, and just did a few more 100-hour weeks, then something would happen, and some magic event would suddenly come along and change things. So, based on all that, why the hell would you listen to me? Because, despite all that, I have been successful. I've made millions of pounds, despite making nearly as many mistakes. Despite leaving school at 16, I'm now a best-selling author. When I first started out, I knew nothing about business. My first company was an internet marketing firm, which I started after reading Internet Marketing for Dummies. True story. Yet I've now been involved in more than 60 small businesses. And now hundreds of small business owners have joined our group coaching club, the 1% Club. Everything I now own, everything I have in my life right now, it all started with £100. And it wasn't even my £100. That was just the size of my overdraft. That's where I started. You may be there or thereabouts yourself too. You may be worse off, or you may be further along the journey. But wherever you are right now, I can honestly say, hand on heart, that if you follow the principles laid out in this book and allow the hill of time to grow your snowball, those terms make a lot more sense in a few chapters, you will be amazed by the progress you can make and how easy it appeared given the benefit of hindsight. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not going to pretend I do. What I do have is a simple, practical way to grow a business, to grow wealth, to get healthier, to develop as a human being, and to become the person you're truly capable of being without working yourself into the ground. If working harder were the answer, then everybody who works hard would be a multi-millionaire. But take a look around you. You don't need to look far to see people working their asses off and still not getting where they want to be. Becoming a routine machine is not about working hard. It's about doing things differently. Not necessarily the big things either, but a culmination of lots of small tweaks. If you want something different to what you already have, then you're going to need to do something different to what you've already been doing every single day, without fail, routinely. This book will help you make those small, seemingly insignificant changes that will compound over time to truly change your life. It has worked for me, and I'm just a normal bloke from Plymouth. If I can do it, why the hell can't you? Enter the king of routine. As part of the marketing push for my first book, Big Ideas for Small Businesses, I did rather a lot of PR work. I gave talks to rooms full of people from the local Rotary Club to the Federation of Small Businesses. I did Facebook Lives with the local newspaper and became a regular on BBC Radio Devon. I was also interviewed on some podcasts, talking about everything from my views on lifestyle businesses, how I juggle parenting with growing a business empire, and where I feel most small businesses go wrong with their marketing. I turned into a proper media whore, and if you had a podcast with more than about 3 listeners, then I probably appeared as a guest on your show. One of the biggest I appeared on was The One Thing, which is among the top 5% of podcasts in the world. Considering there are more than 500,000 active podcasts at the time of writing, that's quite some achievement. I'd read Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, several times over the years, and it had a profound impact on me. So I was unbelievably excited to appear on the podcast and talk about how I'd applied its principles in my business and my life. I was also extremely nervous. Now, I can perform a 45-minute talk in front of a room full of strangers, no problem. Go live on Facebook to thousands of people, easy. Chat live on BBC Radio with tens of thousands of people listening to your every word, piece of cake. But pre-record a 30-minute podcast episode talking about my life to one of my heroes? Well, this is where my imposter syndrome kicked in. This is where I no longer felt like the successful businessman telling the world how he did it. This is where I felt like a lost little boy who didn't belong on this platform. Why the hell would one of the top podcasts in the world, whose other guests have included inspirational people like Angela Duckworth, Dave Asprey, Hal Elrod, Jocko Willink and Cal Newport, be interested in little old me? Their previous episodes include such titles as Seeking Guidance from a Billionaire, How Billionaires Set Goals, and The Mindset Behind a $1 Billion Company. What were their listeners going to think when they heard this bloke from the southwest of England, whose greatest achievement was being able to flip 43 beer mats at the same time, and whose biggest claim to fame is that he once had a wee next to the snooker player Jimmy White? I've honestly never been so nervous when recording an interview. I was on edge for the entire time I chatted with host Jeff Woods. I spoke too fast, didn't get enough oxygen in, and certainly did not bring the best version of me to the episode. I went on the show to plug my book, yet I barely even mentioned it, as I felt that I truly wasn't worthy of appearing on the show. These people probably don't want to listen to me. Why the hell would they want to read my book? That was my thinking at the time. It didn't help that The One Thing was by far the most professional setup I'd encountered while recording podcast interviews. Whereas just about every other host would turn on the microphones and record a 40-minute chat, The One Thing grilled me for 20 minutes the day before recording just to plan what we would talk about during the interview. And on the day of recording, they edited live as we were talking. I reeled off my famous Alan Sugar story, the moment it all changed for me and I became an advocate of lifestyle businesses, which is normally met with amazement, excitement, and acts as a real conversation starter. But on the One Thing podcast, I was met with the following response. That was followed by 3 or 4 seconds of silence. Cue my confidence dipping even lower. I'd just given them my best story, the one that always gets audiences nodding their heads and joining me on the journey, and it fell flat on its face. You talked a bit too much there, John. Can we go again and let me come in after a few sentences? I'm not sure that worked. Lots of instant feedback, but not the sort I wanted. And then Jeff asked me a question that I wasn't expecting. Where are you still struggling with The One Thing? The first thing that popped into my head was the way I described myself in every press release I put out for my first book, the way I announced myself every time I went on stage, and how I was introduced every time I went on the radio or did any interviews. John Lamerton is a lazy entrepreneur and investor. I'd fully embraced the lazy title. That was a conscious choice. But I was also very much aware that I was using a negative word to describe myself. Jeff went on to do some live coaching around the lazy theme and got me to reframe myself as an effective entrepreneur on the live call. During the interview, we talked a lot about how I use routine to achieve so much, how I live and die by my planner, how if it isn't in my calendar, it doesn't exist, and how doing the same thing every day, every week, every month over a number of years has delivered me success. Not success in the billionaire sense, but success for me. I have an ambitious lifestyle business that delivers on my ideal job description: to do what I want, when I want, where I want, how I want, if I want. We talked about how there was no massive turning point, no single thing that I did that made all the difference. It was simply years and years of doing the right things, day in, day out, routinely. We talked about how protective I am over my daily routines, and how I refuse to let the wrong things get in the way of my doing the right things every single day. Of how much it annoys me when stuff does get in the way and stops me from following my usual routine. And of how quickly I get back on the horse and start following the routine again from the very next opportunity. After we'd finished recording the episode, Jeff and I stayed on the line and chatted for a few minutes. He said he was glad to have a normal person on the show, as he felt it would resonate with the audience, because they would feel capable of achieving what I had achieved just by doing what I have done. While Tony Robbins is undoubtedly inspirational, you can't help feel a level of disconnect due to the huge gulf between where you are right now and the guy worth nearly $500 million and with his own Netflix documentary. I think for you, the routine is key, said Jeff. You're like the king of routine. Whoa. Stop right there. King of routine? I'm having that. Never mind an effective entrepreneur. I'm the goddamn king of routine. So, thank you, Jeff. Without that simple throwaway comment, made after we'd stopped recording, I would never have fully embraced or necessarily realised just how important routine is to me. And this book would not exist. And so, dear listener, are you ready to find out how you can become a routine machine? The King will see you now. Homework. If you want new results, you need new routines. So, here's your first new routine. After every chapter, I'm going to ask you a few questions or set you tasks for you to complete. It's nothing too demanding, just a little something to get you thinking about what you've just listened to and how it applies to your life. Now, I want you to actually stop and think about each question, even if it's only for 20 seconds. No moving on to the next chapter until you've done your homework. Here's your first task. Task. Over the next 24 hours, try to notice each decision you make. Was it the human, the monkey, or the computer that made that decision?